Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined, as always, by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Balls on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on? It's Friday, baby.
Yeah, feeling great, Shane. Feeling recharged. I got a great idea for this episode. We didn't want to go 2 days without putting out a show, but we needed a rest and recover day, and now we're back to finish the week strong. I'm excited. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, doing good. Yeah, we got a wild weekend planned, so it's always nice. You know, Friday's always my favorite day. Got paid, you know, you're feeling good, you know, the day just goes by a little bit quicker. So I'm glad we can get some SEC content to those that are having to do the grind one more day.
Yep. And don't forget, Shane, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure we got plenty of mothers listening and plenty of guys that just now realize it's Mother's Day. Get out there and get something. You know, we're trying to give you a helping hand here. I wish we had a deal with 1-800-Flowers or something to give them.
Mike, I ain't gonna lie, you just PSA'd me, brother. You know, it's like, all right, I got 2 extra days. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. Try to keep you out of the doghouse.
Exactly. So let's get right into it, Shane. Like I said, we got a fun idea on the back end, but we do got a couple news and notes around the SEC that I wanted to jump to first. And let's start, Shane, down in College Station.
Gigamaggots.
This is the time of the year, Shane, that Steve Spurrier, he came up with the term talking season. And it's talking season. It's always talking season for us, Shane. But these coaches, right now, they're going to these booster clubs, quarterback clubs, whatever you have it. They're talking to alums and donors and all that. And that is what Jimbo Fisher is doing. And remember, he did it 2 years ago, Shane, when he said, we are going to beat Nick Saban's ass. And that went viral. They ended up doing it. Now he's doing the talking season right now as well, Shane, and some pretty good comments from old Jimbo Fisher. Unfortunately, no video, so we don't have video of this, but I'm just going to read you what he said. One of the fans asked him a question. You know, they have Q&A moments during these.
Yeah.
He said, you going to kick Alabama's ass again, Jimbo? And Jimbo says, well, I'm sleeping well right now. I promise you that. So, and again, when Jimbo talks trash about Saban and Alabama, I mean, he backed it up last time, so
yeah,
I can't wait for this. You know what?
That's what I want, man, too. I mean, Jimbo, we want him confident. We want, you know, because we've got some damage control here from last year, and I think coming out, you know, saying the right thing is important, but backing it up is even more important. So yes, my head coach coming out here, you know, putting the hammer down that he didn't say it, but you know, he said it, that Alabama, here we're coming for you. I think that tickle me pink, brother.
And then one more, Shane, he talked about TCU. I mean, everybody down here in Texas probably fired up.
This is my favorite one.
Why aren't the Longhorns and Aggies, you know, why aren't they getting to the college football playoff? TCU made it before they did. Well, here's what Jimbo had to say about that. He's talking about TCU. TCU stayed healthy. They had a lot of experience, and they got to where they had to get. And then they got to the SEC, and it changed, didn't it? So,
oh, it's all fun and games till it's 65-7, Mike.
And that's 100% the truth. You know what?
Yeah, no, that is it, man. But it's the same old, same old. We keep saying you haven't played anybody yet. Well, TCU officially did play somebody, and I bet they wish they didn't. So this is awesome. And again, Jimbo taking stabs at neighbors, taking stabs at West opponents. This is what we do, man. This fuels us in the offseason. Don't think Nick Saban ain't saving that clip. I'm going to remind them boys back home that Texas A&M thinks they're going to beat us, you know?
Yeah. And one last thing on the Aggies, Shane, I want to give Jimbo some credit. We call him out when he deserves it. We give him praise when he deserves it. Obviously bringing in Bobby Petrino, first time in his entire head coaching career that he's hired a play caller because things have not been working. They've adjusted. He's trying to make the right moves to make Texas A&M football all that it can be. And one other thing that's kind of caught my attention, Shane, and this is something we've hit on a previous show, with so many transfers out, they had about 10 scholarship spots open. And look at these numbers, Shane. From a year ago, they brought in 2 transfers. The year before, 1 transfer, and the same as the year prior, 1 transfer. So in 4 years, Shane, A&M's brought in 4 transfers. And I think if you don't adapt with the times, you don't bring in talent when you need to, however you can, I think you're running into trouble. Well, A&M has added a quarterback from Fresno State in recent weeks, Jalen Henderson, nice depth piece there. Jimbo wanted 4 scholarship quarterbacks. Added a running back, David Bailey from Colorado State, a linebacker, Geronte Davis from Jackson State, played for Dion, cornerback, Josh DeBerry from Boston College, another corner. These 2 were pre-spring. North Carolina's Tony Grimes, a touted recruit, and Sam McCall from Florida State. And I just bring attention to that, Shane, because I think Jimbo is, again, making the necessary adjustments, saying, what I was doing before is not working. I'm going to adjust. And we may not, a lot of those guys I just mentioned, they may not be stars on this team, but they may make a play or 2. They'll add depth. They'll add quality to the roster. And again, this is another reason that I'm high on A&M. They're making the corrections that need to be made to improve that football program.
Yeah, man. No, I think that's it. We all get that way. We're stubborn. We're stuck in our ways. We don't want to change it. Our way or the highway. It's like our papa used to say, Mike. And it's funny because you look at Jimbo, and I think that's what's caught him several times. I mean, it's the narrative we used last year was Texas A&M is not improving because Jimbo can't get out of his way. Well, then you start seeing stuff like this. You start seeing some portal love. You see an offensive coordinator come in. You see the lineup get switched up a little bit there during the spring. Stuff that Jimbo hasn't done in the past. He seems like he's finally bullheadedness, but he finally is starting to come around, and I think that's a great thing, Mike, because sometimes, hell, I used to not like onions. You know what I'm saying? Like growing up, I didn't want to eat an onion, and it's like now, the older you get, you're like, damn, them onions are good. You ever had a blooming onion over? It's like, what was I doing? Where did I wasted all those years? So it's funny. If you do things a certain way and you don't adapt, you get left behind. And I feel like Texas A&M got on the verge there, but little signs like this gives me hope that Jimbo is finally, turning over a new leaf here.
Right. And one guy, Shane, we do not want to change is old Lane Kiffin, and him during talking season, running his mouth. He kind of did that in a recent appearance on Sirius XM radio. He was saying, hey, I'm allowed to talk about Nick Saban, but anybody else talks about him, I'm not cool with that. Let's kick it over to these comments from Lane Kiffin.
I think it's maybe an unusual way of respect for what he did for me. First of all, I respect the guy's the greatest college coach to ever coach college football, because he's doing it in an era different than Bear Bryant and some of those names because of scholarship limitations compared to back then. Imagine if Nick Saban had unlimited scholarships or 150 players. He could take 150 players. Good luck, everybody else. I mean, be Alabama and Georgia, I guess. But so for him to do what he does is unbelievable. And then for what he did for me personally was unbelievable. So it's kind of like one of those, he's like a family member where I can joke about him or something, but if someone else does, it really pisses me off.
And Shane, again, I think we all know who he's talking about there. Lane Kiffin's not a big fan of old Jimbo and Texas A&M, so I kind of roped those in together. But I just thought this was funny because we've all been there, Shane. We talk trash even amongst ourselves, but by God, if someone from the outside starts talking trash about one of us, we got each other's back, and that's the way family is. You know what?
Family, that's what we are, baby, and that's exactly what that relationship Saban and Kiffin share. Which I want to say, late happy birthday to Lane Kiffin. I don't know if you saw it, but he celebrated one this week. Great comments here, and I just like it. He's taking care of Papaw, All
right, and one last thing before we get to the show topic, Shane. Just thought this was interesting. Wanted to bring attention to it, but some news popped up. Florida, Georgia, they play every year in Jacksonville. This is the final year of the contract, and both teams have the option to renew for a second year. They go through this about every year, Shay. They say, well, are we going to keep it up? And then they renew the deal. Well, the Jacksonville mayor came out on a local radio station and said, for 2 seasons, we're basically going to tear down that stadium and build it back up. So we're looking at 2 years where that game cannot be played in that facility because it's even the Jaguars. It's home of the Jaguars. Jaguars are not even going to be able to play there. So that is something that's been coming about, and there is no firm details on what will happen. But this is looking like 25, 26 seasons. And Florida, Georgia may have to find a new home, maybe in Atlanta, maybe in Orlando, maybe both, or maybe what Kirby Smart has been wanting to do for a while is bring it back to home and home, which that may happen as well, Shane. I mean, I believe that's happened once before when they had to do renovations to the stadium. So that's just something to keep your eye on. And don't forget, Shane, we'll have some clarity on the SEC schedule in a couple of weeks, I do believe, when they meet in Destin at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. If we go to a 9-game schedule, there could be a scenario where Florida or Georgia won, they only got 3 SEC home games a year, while they may have 5 away games because, this is a little oddity in the schedule that may have to be corrected by the time those Destin meetings come out because it is one of the few neutral site games that we still have in college football.
And you know me, Mike, I absolutely hate neutral site games. I think they're dumb. I think they're I don't know. I feel like it steals a game from the fans, in my opinion, every other year. But this one's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I mean, this one goes. I mean, it's been in our lives forever. And I know money is a big factor. I don't know if you remember, we did the history lessons a few years back, and this is one of the ones I covered, and it boiled down to money. They make a ton of money during these home games, but the money both teams make at this neutral site, it kind of supersedes that. I mean, they make more playing in Jacksonville than they would at a home and home, but my question to you is twofold. For one, where are the Jags going to be playing during these 2 seasons? I'm sure they're going to have a stadium somewhere down there.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, Shane, but I think a lot of their games will be in London because they're the ones that kind of have went that route and trying to build that London fan base for. I mean, when I think of London, first thing I think about is Jacksonville, Florida. I don't get it, but I think they're going to play some games there.
Cocktail party across the sea, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even think the Jaguars have figured that out, but they're just, they want a brand new facility essentially on the same plot of land. So as my understanding, Shane, they're going to basically tear the whole thing down and build it from scratch. So there's not going to be any football there for 2 years.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think a home and home would be cool, and you and I are firm believers of home and home games. And it's think about it. It's never not in these kids' lives. Kirby Smart's never played a Florida Georgia game at home. I don't think so. So I think this would be pretty damn cool, and it is kind of interesting. But it's a fluid. SEC is going to be extremely fluid here the next few seasons, and there's going to be some games lost during that transition. And the timing of that stadium repo, that may be the worst timing if you're a Jacksonville owner there.
Yeah. But all right, Shane, let's get to show topic for today. And as always, I want to make sure you fully understand it because I didn't bring this to your attention before we did it, but the Dream SEC road trip for 2023.
Okay.
So different locations every week. And the only difficulty I've added in here, Shane, and same thing we've done before, I believe, but if I've chosen a school to visit, I'm basically scratching that off for the entire rest of the season. Otherwise, we can go down to Tuscaloosa or Knoxville or Athens multiple times, and we can still have a great time. But I'm trying to hit as many SEC venues. I'm trying to hit as many top games as we've got on the football calendar. Does that all make sense to you?
Yes, that makes perfect sense. So if we've been there, we can't go back, right? And that's another important thing, because last time we did this, people got upset that we chose like, I'm trying to think of the word that I want to use, like this game means more than this game. It's not really that's the case. We're just creating a perfect, like the Iron Bowl. We know the Iron Bowl is great, but if we've already been to Auburn, we're not gonna watch the Iron Bowl and not ruin a list or anything like that. Does that make sense?
Another way I'm thinking about it, Shane, if we were introducing someone that's completely foreign to SEC football, how would we outline the perfect season for them to hit the road and check in with as many venues as they could possibly get?
Makes perfect sense. All right. I just wanted to get the schedule up here as we go through it. So, I am ready, sir.
Well, I'm even starting early, Shane. I mean, we could do opening weekend, but hey, we got SEC football week 0. Once again, Shane, we're going to be front and center talking some Vanderbilt Commodores. So one of the best cities in the country, Nashville, Tennessee. Take your trip on down to watch Hawaii get destroyed by Vanderbilt in Nashville, week 0. It's the only option on the board. But, even if the game will be fun, but the city itself will be even better to enjoy. So, I mean, the perfect road trip, I think, starts in Nashville.
Kicking off the SEC football, man. All those bridesmaids running around wondering what all that excitement is. Well, they're getting ready for some SEC football. Hey, do you think Vanderbilt or Hawaii flies over here 2 weeks early for preparation in Nashville, or is that just work that way?
If they do, I bet we'll lose a couple of them on Broadway. You know what I mean? They may never recover.
Absolutely, yeah. Kickoff in Nashville. I love it.
All right, week 1, opening weekend of the season, Shane. A little bit difficult to pick the destination in my mind. This week starts on a Thursday, it ends on a Sunday. It's a wonky, weird week. And the two best games, Shane, LSU, Florida State, that's in Orlando, though, on a Sunday. And I think you could argue South Carolina, North Carolina.
Can you cheat in this perfect scenario? So let's say you pick LSU at, Orlando against Florida State. That's one of the games I'm really looking forward to. Mm-hmm. Does that count as an LSU in your list, in your mind?
No, because it's not their home stadium. You know what I mean?
All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. I love it. All right. Just kind of molding my list too here. All right.
So I went completely off the radar, Shane, and I think this will be a fun trip. And maybe, you may want to choose a different one because you may not agree with me even selecting this one. But for me, Shane, week 1, I realize it's outside the SEC footprint, but I'm going Florida at Utah because I think that's the best matchup. And I don't know, I think it'll be your only opportunity to go to that side of the country and check some SEC football against Pac-12. And I think of nothing better than the SEC going on the road, beating the Pac-12 defending champions in their home field. I think that'd be a hell of a trip.
Dude, this is a tough one, man, because I don't know. That LSU Florida State game last year was so personal, Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you factor in you're in Orlando, you could take the kids to Disney. I mean, it's easy to convince the family to travel to this game.
Right.
That would be it.
Well, we could cheat because the Florida Utah's a Thursday night. So you could very easily travel and hit Orlando by Sunday and take in both games.
Oh, then that's what we're doing. We're cheating, Mike. This is our list. We're doing both. We're going to Florida, Utah game, and then we're going to fly down to Orlando. I feel bad that South Carolina, North Carolina got left out a little bit here because I still think that's going to be a hell of a matchup. But
we could even cheat and hit that one on Saturday and hit LSU. But
oh my God, Mike, can we do it?
The two reasons I put those secondary, in my opinion, even though they could be better games, is just the fact they are neutral sites. And it's like, man, throw that in Tallahassee, throw that in Chapel Hill, and you will get me signed up for a road trip any time of day. I just feel like these neutral site games, I mean, they're just made for TV events. They're not a good experience to actually visit. But
yeah,
hell, we'll throw all three on the board if you want.
Because we can. We made the list, because we're going to probably revisit this around Thanksgiving, I would imagine. So, let's do that. Let's hit them all. Let's hit so it'd be Vandy first, then we're going to Utah, then we're going to fly to Carolina. Is it in Charlotte? Is that where it's going to be held?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Charlotte. So then we'll go to Orlando, man. Man, perfect. Absolutely.
I'd hate to see the bill for this trip. All right, how about now week 2? We're getting into a more normal grind of the season, Shane. Yeah. And man, I really want to pick Texas at Alabama, but again, remember, if I did, the rest of the Alabama home games are off the board, so I'm not going with that one. You could kind of talk me into Ole Miss at Tulane. I think that could be an interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, who's got a really good quarterback, at Mississippi State. You could convince me that one, but there's a much better one I want in Starkville. So I'm going, Shane, Texas A&M at Miami. We'll get to hit the beach. We'll have an A&M Aggie takeover of that stadium. I think that's the game that I'm going with, A&M at Miami.
Yeah, man. I mean, you could do Disney all week and then just go down there. You know what I'm saying? It's like that could be your family vacation. You could spin this and make it work. So, I'm a family man, Mike. So I got to be thinking about the kiddos as well. So, yeah, I think that's your answer. This was a tough football game last year, and it was kind of like Texas A&M. Rough start last year, but during this Miami game, I was like, man, we may be in for a long freaking season here. So I think this is a good temperature gauge too with A&M to kind of figure out how good of a program. I mean, you're coming off New Mexico at Miami. I think that's going to be a hell of a game, brother. So yeah, I'll sign up for Miami.
All right, how about this one, Shane? Next week, a lot of good options here. LSU at Mississippi State. Crossroads game. It's going to be very important for both fan bases. You could go with that one. South Carolina at Georgia. That could easily be a selection. If South Carolina continues to improve, could make that a competitive ball game. Kansas State at Missouri. That's an underrated one that's going to be paramount to Missouri having success. You could talk me into any of those, Shane. But the one I'm going with, Tennessee at Florida. Now we're getting into the meat of SEC football here. I think this is a huge, huge game for both teams to meet and exceed expectations. They've got to win this one. I think this is the best game of the weekend.
Yeah, it's a tough one, Mike, because I'm thinking about the Tennessee and Florida game. Is that going to be my matchup? Because, you could almost cheat and go to BYU and watch the Arkansas game, because you're not going to have to worry about BYU again. Again, that was a fantastic game last year. But it's hard for me to go against. This is your 3:30 CBS game, I would imagine, if all goes well. So, yeah, Tennessee, Florida Gators, give me that one. Is this it's at Tennessee. No, it's at Florida. They were here last year. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's in the swamp. So the fans will be jacked up, particularly if they beat Utah. Yeah. This will be their opportunity to smash all the haters like me out there. Against a team they virtually own.
But even if they don't beat Utah, this is a game that Tennessee can't just mark as owned. Right. This is going to be a tough-fought football game, just like it was last year. Hell, it came down to one play. So why won't it be this way again? So this is always a fun game to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So we're engaged. We're just staying in Florida. We got a good tan by now.
All right, how about the following week, Shane? A lot of good matchups here. Ole Miss at Alabama. That could be one. That's been a fun series here lately with Lane Kiffin and Nick Saban. It's probably a lock to be the CBS game. Auburn at A&M. Auburn under Hugh Freeze should be a lot better team. Mississippi State at South Carolina. I've talked about, that's one where I don't think enough people are talking about, but that is going to be a very interesting game that cannot wait to see that play out. But the one I'm going with, Shane, give me the battle for the boot there. Arkansas at LSU. It's so rare that this game is that early in the season. It's pretty weird. But I think this is a huge game for both teams, and I think that'll be a fun environment.
Yeah, and again, we're talking situational here. The Ole Miss Bama game, obviously can't wait to watch it, but do you want to waste your Bama visit on that one?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. We got some more down the road here. A&M, Auburn, man, these are some freaking great games. I'm getting excited thinking about it. But yeah, I'm with you here. Give me the battle of the boot. This one's going to be fun. This one's going to be at night, I would imagine. And it should be electric. I mean, if Arkansas does what they should do, I mean, there's a real shot they're undefeated in this thing. There's a real shot LSU is undefeated, probably a top 5 team at this point. I mean, this may be your game of the week. So yeah, I'm signing up for that.
Yeah, I think if you're a Razorback, Shane, you better hope and pray it's CBS, so you don't have to go into Tiger Stadium at night. You know what?
Yeah, please to God, please be at 3:30.
All right, how about the next week, Shane? I can be honest with you. When I was putting this list together, this one topped my list, but I had to take it out for another one later. South Carolina at Tennessee. That's my runner-up now, but it was at the very top of my list. I think both programs, both fan bases, both coaches got this one circled as a must-win for this upcoming season. We got Georgia at Auburn. That may be, arguably their toughest road test of the season. Florida at Kentucky. That's very underrated, and I'd love to make that trip up to Lexington. You got A&M, Arkansas, and Arlington. That's always an interesting, fun game. But I'm going with LSU at Ole Miss. I think this is, LSU's the one that snapped Ole Miss winning streak last year and kind of sent them down a downward spiral. I think this is going to be a huge, huge game.
Yeah, man, I'm looking at this list. I'm just trying to argue with you here because I do think that Tennessee, South Carolina is going to be amped up a little bit, brother. I think it's going to. Don't get me wrong. It's meant a lot in games past, but all off season they've been ribbing them volunteers, and them volunteers can't. It's like the one that got away, So they're that place is going to be freaking rocking. But man, I'm looking, brother. This is a tough one here. So you went LSU Ole Miss. What about the Florida Kentucky game though? I mean, how close were you to pulling the trigger on that one? Just because the way these two teams have been playing here lately.
Yeah, I mean that's probably number 3 on my list behind South Carolina, Tennessee. But again, that has developed into a nice little rivalry with Kentucky kind of owning the Florida Gators. Let's call it like it is. And this is one where if Billy Napier is going to turn things around at Florida, he's got to beat Kentucky every year, regardless of where that game is. But that's a hostile environment. And last time they were up there, they lost. And hell, they lost at home to Kentucky last year. So you could easily talk me into flipping this to Florida, Kentucky, and I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I was just these are just some damn good games, man. I'm going to be disappointed I'm sitting in the stands and can't watch some of these others.
All right. How about the next week, Shane? This one for casual SEC fans, they're going to be like, what? LSU at Missouri. I think Missouri, if they can get over Kansas State, they're going to be undefeated in this one. Yeah. LSU might be undefeated too. So this is probably my top secondary choice, but I'm very close to pulling the trigger on it being the top choice. Kentucky at Georgia. I don't think anybody in the East plays Georgia as well as Kentucky for whatever reason, so that could be a hell of a matchup. Arkansas Ole Miss is always fun in Oxford. That should be a wild game, but we kind of led with it. We almost have to go with this one. Alabama at Texas A&M. Could be the game that decides the SEC West. I think it could be that important. Give me Nick Saban versus Jimbo Fisher any day of the week. I think this is an easy selection.
It is, and I'm looking at the Mizzou schedule, because you mentioned that the Kansas State game was the one that I thought maybe week 3, that's the one we pull the trigger, but But man, I mean, that's going to be a tough one. That may be two top 15. I mean, for sure, I would imagine Missouri's top 15 at that point. They're undefeated, so it'd be tough not to have them on the list. But I'm with you, Mike. Jimbo, Alabama, they're already chirping. They chirp every offseason. This game becomes bigger, because everybody's bookmarking this stuff right now. And then we're reminded 2 weeks before the game that, do you remember what Jimbo said? Did you see what Saban said? It's just it just kind of bulls over, and it's not a gimme. It doesn't matter how bad Texas A&M is or how good Alabama's playing. Doesn't matter. This game's going to come down to the wire. So I think I'd hate to be the one that missed it.
Yeah. All right. How about the next week, Shane? This was a difficult one. Texas A&M at Tennessee. That could easily be the choice. I think that's going to be a top game. Auburn at LSU. It's one of my favorite annual showdowns in the SEC. Arkansas at Alabama. Obviously Alabama's got a huge winning streak in that, but still, that's been a fun series the last couple of years. But I'm going with Shade. We finally got to get down to Columbia, South Carolina. Florida at South Carolina. This is another one, Shane, where I think both fan bases expect to win. We've seen some wild, questionable officiating and games come down to the wire. And the last 2 seasons, there have been some blowouts that many people did not see coming. I think this is potential for a really, really competitive, fun game that, I couldn't tell you with a straight face who I think is going to win it. So I think Florida at South Carolina, that's my pick here.
Have we picked so I'm sorry, I'm getting my list mixed up here. Did we pick one for Kentucky yet?
No.
Okay. I mean, because, damn, you want to talk about a good game? This seems to be a good game every single year. At Mizzou, Kentucky matchup. I think if all goes well, I mean, Kentucky's probably – they probably lost one, Georgia, I would imagine. Mizzou, worst case scenario, they're one loss with LSU, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, that could be a hell of a matchup, and it's always a fun game to watch. It seems like whoever screws up is going to lose that game. It usually comes down to 1 or 2 mistakes or turnovers. So
I completely forgot about this, Shane. So I bet you did too. But I just rewatched that game from last year.
Yeah,
this was the one. Remember where Kentucky snapped the ball over the punter's head and it went back like 80 yards and he picked it up and they hit him and they were like, oh, that's roughing the punter. Like I never heard of 80-yard backward roughing the punter, but they called it and that defined that football game. So you're 100% correct.
I think about the time Kentucky was the year before. Didn't they fumble one through the end zone or some? I mean, I remember there's always these crazy bounces, and right. I may be mistaken. I may be getting that Ole Miss game mixed up too. But I don't know. I think I may go to that Kentucky. I may consider the Kentucky Mizzou game. I just think that's going to be I think this year especially, it's going to be freaking fireworks, man. It's going to be. I mean, think about the time they went up to Kentucky, and all those right there at the end, they had all those penalties in the red zone. Yep. It's like they always got something going on. There's some weird bad bounce, but. Anyway, I'm just getting pumped up. Which one did you go with here?
I went with Florida at South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with you. We're rolling off your list. They're going to be brutal to you, but that's the only one so far I may switch because I just think that we got ourselves a hell of a game here.
Yeah. Well, and maybe I'm going a little too South Carolina crazy because next week, Shane, Ole Miss at Auburn. I really wanted to pick that one, Shane, because remember the Lane Kiffin Auburn drama, and now it seems like him and Hugh are going back and forth. There seems to be a lot of anger there, so that could easily be the selection, but I just didn't want to burn up my Auburn trip just yet. Tennessee at Alabama. I mean, you kidding? I mean, I take that any time of day, but I don't want to burn up my Alabama.
2-0, baby. 2-0.
So I went with South Carolina at Missouri, who, again, Shane Beamer has not beaten Missouri his entire time there. And Eli Drinkwitz, spanning 2 schools now, has never lost to South Carolina. So this is developing into a nice little series too. And it's time to get up to the Columbia, Missouri on this road trip. So I'm going South Carolina at Missouri.
Yeah, that's tough, because Bama's going to have a lot of games that you're going to want to watch, of course, but that Tennessee matchup, that's near and dear to my heart. I think it'd be awesome to go down there and potentially win something rarely happens. I think 2 or 3 times in the last 10 years. It's not a something you see often. And the Ole Miss Auburn game, another one. Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin. That's going to be there's going to be some fireworks in that showdown. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
I think you're right. I just talked up Mizzou and I got pumped up about them. I think at South Carolina, there's something about the Battle of Columbia's, you know what I'm saying? I go back to the Golden Goose. You remember him? And the monsoon down there in South Carolina. It's like, so there's some wild ass games there. So yeah, I'm with you here. My dogs are getting pumped up. Excited.
Well, speaking of the dogs, Shane, we'll go to that one next. But just some alternative games. Tennessee at Kentucky. Man, that's a fun one up there in Lexington. You can easily talk me into that one. South Carolina at Texas A&M. South Carolina finally snapped that streak. Can they make it 2 in a row? I think the Aggies will be out for revenge. Could talk me into that one. But again, this
huge
is
rivalry. Huge rivalry. They just found the trophy like last week.
But let's not kid ourselves, Shane. Georgia, Florida, in Jacksonville. Yeah. I don't care how down Florida may be. And hell, maybe I'm just off on them. Maybe they always seem to play Georgia better. This is one of the best rivalries in all of sports in Jacksonville. That's the trip I'm making.
Yeah, I'm with you. And apparently it's the last one we get to watch, so we might as well really enjoy it. Wouldn't that be crazy? So when is that official? When does that officially end?
Well, see, they don't even know. So, but this is the final year of the contract, and again, they have the option to renew for next year.
Right.
And then
they're doing the stadium next year too, right? Jaguars?
Well, see, and then that's the other thing. I don't know if they've officially firmed that down because the mayor's saying 2025, and Florida's AD is saying that starts in 2026. So they can't even get on the same damn page of when the construction is going to start. So,
damn. I just don't want to miss it. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be the guy that says, hey, we'll get to it next year, and then we don't have the opportunity to watch one of the greatest games ever. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Off air, maybe we should start addressing the idea of maybe traveling to this one, because I would hate to miss the opportunity to just be part of. Just the fanfare itself outside the stadium. I hear it's crazy and nuts, and I would hate to miss it.
It'd be cool if you had the colors of one school and I have the other. We're just like the fans in the stands. It's 50-50, you know?
That's right. Then I get my ass kicked by some – because I ain't wearing Florida, man. Some Georgia fan comes after me. Yeah. I can explain I'm a Tennessee fan. No, that's even worse.
All right, so next week, Shane, this is the one I've been saving up for, but we'll get to that in just a second. We got some great games. A&M at Ole Miss. That could easily be the matchup. Lane Kiffin, Jimbo Fisher, that feud. That makes that fun. Arkansas at Florida, even though we've used up our Florida, but that could be potentially a great game. Kentucky at Mississippi State. It's always interesting. It seems like the favorite rarely wins in that matchup. But this is what I was saying, Shane. I was waiting to save up my Alabama for LSU at Alabama. This is like slam dunk to me because I think it will be the game that likely determines the SEC West. I think we got to make this trip.
Yeah, and it's a tough week for the other ones. There's a lot of junk thrown in there too during that haul. So, yeah, I think that's what you got to go with. I'm just trying to make an argument for anybody else, and I can't. That's your game, man. And they're going to have 2 weeks to kind of piece this one together. They're going to be healthy. This may decide the West. The storylines create college football playoff opportunities. I mean, this is going to be a monumental showdown here. Brian Kelly already talking about whooping Saban's ass. You know, just get ready because there's going to be a lot of talking, and this is going to be a fun game. I think the last time Alabama lost at home was against LSU. You know, I'm sure we'll be reminded of that. So I may misquote. That may be misquote. I don't know, but it seems like that's a factual
so. 2019.
Statement. Yeah. So great. This is going to be an awesome one.
All right, the following week, Shane, this is another busy SEC week. A lot of different selections we could go with. Tennessee at Missouri. I think that's going to be an underrated matchup. Auburn at Arkansas. That's always a fun game. That Auburn has kind of owned that one. Alabama at Kentucky. We talked about it when we were talking biggest trap games. I think is the biggest trap game on the entire SEC schedule. So you could easily talk me in, and I may even talk myself into it, Shane, putting that one just because we haven't made that Lexington trip yet. Florida at LSU, one of the great rivalries in the SEC, could talk me into that one. But I'm going, because we haven't gone yet, Shane, to Athens. Ole Miss at Georgia. I think Ole Miss is being overlooked right now in the preseason. I think they're going to be a very good team. And this, again, big trap game, I think, potentially for the Georgia Bulldogs. I want to make that trip down to Athens. Give me Ole Miss at Georgia.
Golly, how do you not have Georgia going undefeated again? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, we're this
one of
late.
the only tough home games they got too.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I'm looking at their schedule, and I mean, I mean, this is it. This is the doozy. That's at home, you know. Now they got obviously the Georgia game. Tennessee's going to be a tough matchup. You can make a case Kentucky early in the season, but you know, you've kind of. Here's the thing, Mike. You've kind of got me on this one. You said, okay, who's going to beat the Georgia Bulldogs? What potential trap game is there out there? And it's hard. You're looking. I mean, you took no time at all and said Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, and I'm like, man, he's right. You know, it's I'm not saying that they're going to be caught looking ahead to Tennessee or anything like that, but you know, you think you could just put away business there at home, and Lane Kiffin, I tell you, sometimes he's got some stuff dialed up for you, and if Dart's legit, you know, coming into this ball game, we may be talking easily top 25 showdown. So, yeah, I'm here. Take me to Athens. Let's see this Ole Miss thing.
And then the following week, Shane, again, I have one saved in my back pocket for why we got to this, but Kentucky at South Carolina was an option. Again, Mark Stoops, Shane Beamer do not like each other. That's going to be a fun game. Florida at Missouri, that is a much better matchup than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
But this week, there's no option other than Georgia at Tennessee may decide the SEC East. This, you even asked me, Shane, you know, what would this be the biggest win of the Josh Heupel era?
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, I think it would. Back-to-back defending national champions coming to Rocky Top. They got game day already scheduled for this one, Shane. I don't think they're considering any other, and we're, you know, 8 months away from it from actually taking place.
That's right, man. Boy, you talk. What's them things that's called that measures decibels? You know, the sound decibels.
Yeah.
You know, they put that thing up on the Jumbotron, and I'm sure it's skewed a little bit, but whatever Georgia claims they had last year, I'm sure we'll beat them by 1 or 2 points this season. This is going to be a loud, epic matchup. This is going to be a fun one. You know, we're going to be careful not to talk too much smack Tennessee Vols, you know, because it kind of backfired on us. But then again, we may pull fire alarms and see what happens, you know. This is going to be a good one. This is no-brainer. This is the one because, again, we talked about it. We got Alabama at home last year. Now the other one on our list is getting Georgia. This would be a huge one. I mean, Heupel's going to be here for a long, long time, but a start of his legacy, knocking down 2 powerhouses back-to-back, that would be something else. So, and Georgia, that's the thing. Kirby's been, I think he drinks blood at night. You know what I'm saying? He is just ready, and he'll be dialed in. He will have these guys dialed in. There'll be no overlooking the Tennessee Volunteers. Georgia comes up. It's like they just can't wait to kick everybody's ass. So this is going to be a good one, definitely.
And smart move, looks like, by the SEC, Shane. This used to be annually in the middle of the season. They moved it to not the very end, but the next to last weekend of the season. That could be a wise move coming up to this season, because this could be the game that decides the East. But now we finally got the rivalry week, Shane, the greatest week in college football, in my opinion. And I'm going to cheat again, Shane, because thankfully we got a Thursday game, so we're finally making it down there to Starkville, Mississippi. I've been saving for this one. Ole Miss at Mississippi State, maybe the best game on the SEC calendar every year, in my opinion. It's a funky game. It's a fun game. It's a holiday game. That has to be on a trip like this. You know what?
Yeah, it's always been prior to Kiffin and Leach, rest in peace. It's been a chippy little matchup, and sometimes it means a little bit more to the players, I think, that grew up, because most of these guys grew up in Mississippi, knowing about this rivalry. This is going to be an absolute epic showdown. Cowbells are blaring. It's going to be an emotional game, and I would love to be a part of it.
And then, so like I said, we're cheating because that's on a Thursday. We got a full schedule on Saturday, and really, there is no wrong answer for this one, Shane. I really want to go down to.
Didn't they talk about doing a Friday game? Did at one point they discussed that?
Yeah,
or didn't we have one for one year?
I don't know why they do this, Shane. They always put out the schedule, and then in the middle of the offseason, they say, "Hey, we're moving Missouri, Arkansas to Friday." So I don't know why they can't just do that at the beginning, but technically that's a Saturday game, and they'll move it to Friday. So, we could cheat again, because I really wanted to make it to Arkansas. Let's go. Let's say we'll go to that one on Friday.
Yeah.
But again, on Saturday, so many good matchups, Shane. I really wanted to go to South Carolina for the Clemson-South Carolina game. You could talk me into that one. That Missouri-Arkansas I just referenced, I really wanted to put that on the list, because we haven't been to Fayetteville yet. So when they do move it to Friday, that's a no-brainer. We got Texas A&M at LSU. I really, really, really wanted to put that on this list. But go back to what I said earlier, Shane. This list, the way I'm kind of designing it, is great games, obviously, but also if someone had no idea, an alien come down and we'd say, here's a perfect trip to get you into SEC football, there's really only one answer to get the full experience, and that's the Iron Bowl. Been saving Auburn, so give me Alabama at Auburn. Who knows how good Auburn will be. They may not be good at all, but still, this is going to be a heck of an atmosphere, because there have been many of teams in this series that were huge underdogs that pulled the outright upset, and I think it could happen again this year. So give me Alabama, give me Auburn on the Plains. I'll take that 10 out of 10.
Absolutely. You're talking about experience. This is one of the best rivalries in college football, and it, again, we've had some bad years from both teams, and it seems like it's still going to come down to the wire. So I'm going to be a part of that. So, and I'm not trying to skew. I'm not trying to take away from some of these other rivalries. I think the Florida State, I think that's a game in the future could be a better matchup. I look at the South Carolina Clemson, an opportunity to see, beating Clemson 2 times in a row. Geez, that damn state would implode, So there's a lot of great matchups on here, but it'd be tough to say no to the Iron Bowl. So that's one I've never got to do, and another one that's on my bucket list. So let's sign it up.
Yeah, and man, just sitting here talking all these games get me fired up for some SEC football. You know what?
I was just thinking, if TCU had this scheduled, they'd be 0-12, wouldn't they? Maybe they catch Vandy early in week 0. So, no, this is awesome. And again, looking at having to choose, that's a tough list, and it's going to get critiqued like crazy online. But I think you did well here. There's maybe a couple I'd switch, but even if you didn't, Mike, man, if I ran that perfect season, you want to talk about, I could die happy, you know what I'm saying, going to all those cathedrals. So having the opportunity to see all my teams play, so this is just getting me pumped up, man.
Well, buddy, I know you got to run and get to softball. You got anything else before we hop off the line?
Well, I'm not playing softball, so you made it sound like I got a quick jog I'm going to do. I got a 5K I'm training for, Mike. No, my youngest, she's playing, but we're going to get off here. It's our first game, so we're going to root for her, and hopefully she'll do well. And man, I just this is such a great time. We've had a lot of people reaching out online, a lot of people calling the hotline. Just keep them coming in. I don't want you to feel like you're being ignored. You're not. It's just we've got a long little stretch here that we're going to get to all your questions and concerns, and it's going to make this is turning out. I think we're going to have one of the best college football seasons ever, Mike. When we started this podcast many, many moons ago, I never thought it'd be to this point, and it finally feels like we got this thing on cruise control, man. We got this thing dialed in, and we're going to get the most content that we can out to y'all, and we wouldn't do it without you. So if you've got yourself an Apple or one of them Androids or any of those, jump on Spotify, jump on iTunes, 5-star reviews. Those help us out. The biggest, man, is we were so damn close to 10,000 on YouTube. I'm about to go to Walmart and go down that aisle and just subscribe so we can hit it. Please help us get to this 10,000. That would mean so much. Grab your kid's tablet. They won't know what's going on. Well, maybe not your kids. We do cuss every now and then. But grab your moms or your dads, at Mother's Day, you're at the event. She won't know what's going on. She just, every time she jumps on YouTube, she see that fat guy, So, but anyway, if you got it, that would mean the world to us. And I appreciate everybody that has already subscribed, but just keep those notifications on, because we're going to have some great stuff coming to you. We got some big plans rolling out early fall, so we're going to keep you guys in the loop for that as well. Hopefully we can start making some of these dream trips, Mike. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. That's what we're working towards, Shane. So everything you said, really appreciate all the support, watching, reviews, questions. Follow us on all the social medias. We really do appreciate each and every one of you, because without you, there wouldn't be a show. But, Hey, that's all I got, brother. Again, don't forget, Mother's Day this weekend. Get out there, get them flowers, get them chocolates. Be a good son, be a good husband. Hey, that's all I got on this episode of the show, Shane. I thank you, as always, for joining me. I thank each and every one of you for showing up. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.